we will study about the French society, okay? And we will also, why this revolution broke out? What were the reasons of the outbreak? We will also study, like, now we have democracy in most of the countries. But at that time in the 18th century, there was no democracy. What was there? There was anybody? The kingdom was the kings were there, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, and one king fought with another king, and what they did, they wanted to expand their kingdom, and so this was, so what you call this? We call this the monarchy. Okay, and there were these monarchs. The monarchy rule. The monarchy, after the monarch, when the revolution happened, the monarchy rule was abolished, and France became republic. Okay, so we are going to study about all this, and why the revolution started, and why the people wanted France to become republic, and how it all happened. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so the first thing that we study here in the French Revolution is July 14, 1789. Okay, what happened on this day? What happened on this day? The king had command. The king had, what happened on this day? There was an out. There was several a group of people of 700 marched towards the eastern part of the city, and stormed into the fortress prison of Bastille. Yeah, they attacked the Bastille fortress. Okay, and they held the monarch, the king, and his queen. They held them hostages. Okay, and what was the reason for this? It was a rumor. There was a rumor. There was a rumor had spread. Okay, that the army was going to open fire upon the citizens, and because the people think that the king's army is going to attack us, why don't we gather together and attack the king, right? So they all stormed towards the fortress, and they attacked on the fortress of Bastille. Now, why did they do this? We are going to study this. Okay, why did they do this? So let us begin. Let us begin with the, so let's first we should understand what was happening there when the monarch system was there. Okay, when the monarch system was there, what was happening? This is let me first describe you the French society, how it was there. First of all, there was they were divided into 3 states were there. Yeah, 3 states were there. Okay, now the first state with the clergy. Okay, these were the people of the church. You can say the priest and the people who belong to the church. Next was the nobility. Okay, the nobility were the people who were noble by birth. Okay, they did not do any studies, and they did not do any good deed. They just became noble by birth. And then there was the third state. Okay, now the third state was further divided into 3 categories. Okay, these 3 categories. The first category was that of the businessmen, merchants, the court officials, lawyers, those who were educated. Then there was the peasants and the artisans who had a few little money, or you can say a small land. And then there were the small peasants, the landless labor, and the servants. Okay. Now, so what was happened? First of all, when we start the chapter, we talk about Louis the king 16. Okay, now there was the Bourbon family. Okay, and he was at a very small age. He was only about 20 years old when he got married to the Austrian prince Mary Antoinette. Okay, and he ascended the throne. He became the rich. Okay, there was a big celebration. Okay, he got married at such a small age, and also he became the king. So, do you think it was a big celebration for him? No, it was not a big
No,
celebration for
ma'am.
him. Why? Why? What happened?
Ma'am,
Because
because he
when
has
he,
to take over the responsibilities at a small age.
yeah, and he was not prepared for it, right? And when he, that was not the problem. So everybody made him the king. The, you can say, the ministers of his kingdom, of the Bourbon king family, they made him the king. But what happened? He was, when he became the, there was no the treasures. You can say the treasury of the kingdom was kind of empty. And why was he was mounted with debts. Why was? Because for he what Livery's currency was of the of France. So they were, he was already, the kingdom was already indebted. Why? Because they had gone into war. Like I told you, they wanted to expand their kingdom, and hence they went into war with their neighboring countries. Of course, war is not easy. Yeah, war costs you a lot. And so the government offices and the universities of King Louis XVI was compelled to increase taxes. So what happened when when the king had no money? What he did? He ordered the increase of taxes. Okay. Now, like I told you, there was the French society was divided into three states. Okay, you'll have to remember this. The first was the clergy, the second was the nobility, and the third was the everybody came into the third one. Okay. Now, what was the cause of the discontent? Why were the people not happy in his rule? The cause of discontent during that is what was, first of all, there was the people were not very happy because there was a king, right? And they were to work. Okay, but they were not being paid by for their work. Like it is like today, there is a system. Anybody, if you hire somebody, what we say, by what is your daily wages or what is your salary? The person works and then we pay them by salary. That was not the way when it was during the monarch. Okay, the people had struggled and they were on. You say they were on whatever the king wanted, he could do. Right. So as the population grew, what happened? There was food scarcity. Okay, and there was of course there was the demand. When the demand of bread went up, the prices also went up, right? And what happened? The people were working because the kingdom was already in debt. They had raised the taxes. Now the people had less food to eat. They also had to pay more taxes. So this was the first reason for discontent. Okay. Now, what happened? The gap between the rich and the poor had increased. Okay. The rich were getting more taxes, the poor were working more hard, and they had no food. So, this led to what happened? This led to the substance crisis. What is substance? Can anybody tell me by the name substance? What do you mean by substance?
Ma'am, objects or materials.
Yeah, the necessities, you can say the necessities to survive. Anybody cannot survive without food, right? Anybody cannot survive without, you can say, a house. You need a roof over your head. You need safe drinking water. You need medical service, right? You need a doctor. You need, you can say, clothes. So these are, when you're deprived of all this, when you're deprived of all the necessities to survive. Okay. So this led to, this is the necessities to survive is called substance. Okay. Now, when this was all, when as the population grew, what happened? Substance crisis was there. Now, when a hungry person is asked to work, right? So he's not going to be happy. What do you say? Are you going to, are you, is anybody going to be happy if you're hungry? Right? So this was the second, this was the first major cause of the discontent. And now when you are hungry, when you are poor, you have no shelter in for the winters, you see that the people who are the clergy or the nobles, they are enjoying lavish food, right? And they are enjoying all the richness. So what do you think they will feel?
Ma'am, they feel underprivileged.
They will feel embarrassed. They were going to feel angry, right? They are going to feel angry. They are going to feel suppressed. They are going to have that, you can say, that hatred into their hearts. Okay. When you are hungry and you see somebody else enjoying on the basis of your work done, you are working and another person is enjoying your work and you are not even given a proper meal to eat. So this also made the person okay, so angry. So what happened? But they had no means. If a poor peasant, you can say the poor peasants went, even if they went to their nobles and the clergies, and they asked for some privilege, they might have asked for something. So what happened? What would they get in return? They would get beaten up, right? They got beaten up. They had got no facilities. So what happened? Why they were suppressed? Even if they tried to go into a revolution, even if they protested, they were suppressed. Why? Because they were helpless. They had no sources to fight. They had no, you can say, means of livelihood, or all were endangered. So, but gradually, as developments was made, the growing middle class had emerged. Okay. Now the middle class was had emerged. Now the middle class began to do business, right? When they began to business, they began to study, they began to do business, and now they began to understand the system on which the monarchs were working. They understood before, when a person was hungry, they did not even understand what is the reason that we are poor and what is the reason that they are enjoying so much of richness and luxury, and we are not having two times meal. They were not even able to understand. But this was they were able to understand when the middle class came, and the middle class told them what was happening, what was the monarch and the nobility doing, right? And they understood that it was the heavy taxes. Okay, that was the reason because of which they were not able to survive. Now, as a wealthy social group term, the medical class was emerging in the French society. The lawyers and administration in this category were educated people who did not believe in any privileges by earth, right? Now, when the educated came, they said, why should the clergy and the nobility enjoy this facility? What is there? Just because you're born in a noble family, it does not mean you deserve all the richness. So they began to question the monarch. Okay, so there were such philosophers like John Locke and Jean Jacques Rousseau. Okay, just remember these names. Okay, now they envisioned a society based on the freedom and equal laws and opportunities for all. Okay, they believe that the person should be free, and the person should be able to do what should have the freedom, should have the law should be equal for all. Before, what used to what happened, in a rich man or you can a noble man can do any kind of torture to the poor peasant, and there would be no law against him, right? So the French philosopher Montesquieu, okay, he proposed the division of power within the government. Now what happened? The educated people came. Now they began to frame the laws for it. Like, what should the law be? If monarch is not there, then what should be there? Right? You understand? Now, what happened in India? Just tell me somebody. When the British rule went, right? Our Indian freedom fighters, they made the constitution, right? So the British rule should go and the Indian constitution should come. And our B.R. Ambedkar, he wrote down the constitution. In the same way, the French did, right? They said the monarch should go and the republic should come. So they framed, first of all, the division of power within the government between, and they formed the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. Okay. So
Ma'am,
there
this
was,
republic form of government and democratic form of government are similar.
it is not very similar. Democracy was different. Republic was not entirely democratic. There was a king. He was there. But the people took powers from him, and the king, in a kind of a way, had a veto power. In the end, it was he who decided everything, but it was all freedom was taken away from him, that he is not supposed to make anything that he wished for. He had to consult the legislative. Okay. So when under Republic, there was the legislative and there was the executive and there was the judiciary. I think I have given. Okay. So what was the legislative supposed to do? Now the American Constitution and is guaranteed individual examples of, from America they got these ideas. Okay. Now they began to think. Now they said there should be a legislative assembly, and then there is a executive who will, the legislative assembly is going to make the rules. Okay. And the executive people are going to make sure that these rules are passed into the mass, and the judiciary is going to punish those who break the law. Okay. So this was decided. Okay. Now let us see what is the substance crisis. Yeah, so there was bad harvest. Okay, the poorest could not longer buy bread, and then also what happened? Diseases spread. Okay, and this ultimately led to the substance crisis. So what happened? How was the outbreak of the revolution done? It was on 5th of May 1789 that Louis XVI called a meeting of the State General to propose an increase in the tax. Like I told you, when he came to the throne, there was the treasury was kind of empty, so he decided to increase the tax. Now to increase the tax, he called up the State General meeting. Okay, now he proposes that we should increase the tax because we are running out of the we are running empty. Okay, so there was three states were there, and now what was happening? The three states each used to have their one single vote, one vote only. Okay, and each state could cast only one vote. Okay, now the first and the second state, like I told you, the first state was that of the clergy. So their vote was one vote, and then there was the nobility. They had one vote. Okay, now clergy were 300 members. Nobility were 300 members. And then there was the last, that was the third category. You can say this was the third, this was the others. So this they comprised of, the third state was represented by prosperous and educated members. The peasants, artisans, and women were denied entry into the assembly. Like, women are not supposed to be coming in, and the landless people are not supposed to be coming in. Okay, so they were what is that? Yeah, they were denied entry. Now, however, their grievance and their demands were listed in some 40,000 letters. 40,000 were letters, and the third, you can say the third state, they came into the assembly with these letters, and they proposed that these letters were there. and they were 600 members. Now they asked the king that every member should get a vote, because they were 600. So they thought that when we are going to be voting, we are in the majority, so we will pass what we wanted. But the king rejected the idea. King Louis 16th, he rejected the idea. And what happened? The third state walked out in protest. Okay. Now what happened? They went out. That does not mean that they went home and they slept, right? They didn't sleep on it. They assembled in a hall of indoor tennis court in the grounds of Versailles. The ground of tennis court of the Versailles, okay, and there they declared themselves as National Assembly. Now here what they happened, the educated middle class, they sat down and they drafted a constitution for France. Now this was led by Mirabeau and Abbasis, okay, and on this night of 4th of August 1789, the assembly passed a decree abolishing the feudal system of obligations and taxes. Means the feudal system means now there is not going to be slavery. Each one should be paid for whatever work they do. Okay. Now after this, France became a constitutional monarchy. The draft of the constitution was completed in 1791. So they began to write in 1789 and they completed in 1791. Now it curtailed the power of the monarch. It reduced the power of the monarch and assigned it to the three institutions. That was, like I told you, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. So do you people understand till now what happened?
ma'am.
Anybody can give me a summary? What was the monarch system in the what was the monarch system? Tell me about the states.
Ma'am, the French society was totally divided into three estates. The first estates consisted of clergy, which had the people who belonged to churches and who were superior, and second
Mm-hmm.
were nobility, where they didn't do any good deed, but they were considered as noble by birth. And then the third estate was again divided into three groups, which was business class, business persons, which were well educated and did the business. And then the second one are the peasants and poor, little less businessmen, low class businessmen, where they owned very little land. And the third
Yeah,
group consisted of landless people and daily wage laborers.
very good. Okay, now what was the reason that the people were not happy? What was the reason? Why were they not happy? The causes of discontent. What were the causes?
May I?
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am, the discontent reasons for discontent were one growing growth of population, which resulted in less foods, which resulted in food scarcity. Next was subsistence crisis, which didn't give them enough necessities, daily needs, and
Yeah,
they were also uh, seen as slaves and laborers, and they were considered to be marginalized.
yeah. And heavy taxes were imposed on them. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So philosophers came up, and these philosophers were not from were not peasants. Okay, they were most of them. I think one of them was clergy also, and they fought for the rights because the good people, you can say, the good people with art, they had sympathy for what was happening to the poor peasants. Okay, now what did they want? What is the how was the division of power done by the assembly? The National Assembly, how did they divide the power? Anybody? Harshit, tell me.
Yeah, ma'am, the assembly was divided into three parts:
Yeah.
legislative, which makes the laws; executive, which executes; and judiciary, which checks that all the laws are implemented correctly and everyone has equal rights and um,
Good.
duties.
Okay. Very good. Now, what was the outbreak of the revolution? What happened? What happened when the Louis 16 had called up the meeting to propose and increase in the tax? What had happened at that time? Anybody else? Jitendra, you tell me. No? Are you there, Jitendra? Sampath, you tell me.
Uh, Ma'am, when at the assembly, he proposed the idea to increase the taxes so that they could have enough revenue, and they also gave each estate one vote to elect their leader, and also they declared national assembly and drafted the constitution.
What happened when Louis is 16, right? What he wanted to impose the tax. Now, what happened? The clergy, you can say, and the nobility, they were his own people, right? Now, the third state was all alone. So, whenever there is a voting, the king knew I would get two votes, and the third state had only one vote. So, it would be a majority, and I would win. That was his, you can say, cruel policy, right? So what happened? The third state, they wanted a election for vote for each member, because they were 600 members, the others were 300. So there was now 600 on that side and 600 on this side. So clergy and the nobility, they were together 600, and the third state were together all sorry, the third state were 600 members. So they wanted a one vote for each member. So it would be all the 1200 people should vote. Now, when the majority comes, then the rule should be passed. But what happened? King Louis, he rejected this idea, and the third state, they walked out. Okay? They walked out did not mean they went home. They went to the indoor tennis court in the ground of Versailles, and they declared themselves a national assembly. Under this national assembly, there was three division of power, that was the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Okay?
Yes.
All of you get me? Anybody have any doubt?
No, ma'am, no doubt.
Okay, so we will continue next class. And I just want you all to read the chapter so that you can understand till now what we have done. So you are, like I told you, you should know where is France. Where is France located at this time? You should know what is the flag, right?
Ma'am,
And
I have a world map with me now.
what?
Ma'am, I have a world map with me.
You have the world map. You see where is France?
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
during the class.
Okay, good, good. So that's all. We are going to end the class. Anybody have any doubt? Please get to me. I will post your homework is read the chapter, okay? And we will continue the notes in the next chapter. If you read the chapter, you will understand the entire story. And by the beginning of the chapter, like I saw, the people had attacked the fortress of Bastille, okay? And they held the king and his queen as hostage. So this is the starting. Now we have studied what was the monarch. We have studied what was the